Oh, hi, everybody. It is weather time. Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on the 22nd of January, 2020, rolling right along here. So, Mr. Rayo, you are on WVOX today.
No, I wasn't. It's
Oh,
tomorrow.
oh, it's tomorrow.
It's
Oh, I'm
tomorrow.
sorry. I misread. I saw you behind the microphone in the picture. I didn't get a chance to actually read what you wrote.
No,
So
no,
it's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow at noontime. Now that picture was taken at a few years ago at the Northeast Astronomy Forum, where there was a local radio station that was covering it, and they asked me to come in and do some chat time with them. It was the only thing I had available where I'm, with headsets and with a
Right,
radio.
right. All right, so let's start this all over again. Joe's going to be on WVOX radio tomorrow in New Rochelle.
That's correct.
Okay.
The biggest little community radio station in the United States, 500 watts of power booming in, but you can listen to it if you're out of the listening range by going over to my Facebook page, Joe Rayo Weather, and I provided a link so you can just hit on the link at noontime and hear moi with Phil Reisman, who is a very, very good journalist, a well-known columnist for many years at lohud.com and the Journal News, no longer there, but he's writing for Westchester Magazine. And the topic is that the Westchester Magazine, uh, I sat down with them and did an interview that will be out literally the next few days on the newsstands about my life, about my broadcast career, about my forced retirement.
Right.
And tomorrow I get a chance to go on and talk about it with Phil, and maybe we'll even take a couple of phone calls. I don't know. We'll see how it all pans
It
out.
all started at a 50,000 watt radio station in what was Ted Baxter's for
Fresno.
what's that? In
It all
Fresno?
started. It all started at a little 5,000 watt radio station in Fresno, California. Remember that?
Yes, I do. I'm
And for me, it all started at that very same 500-watt radio station in New Rochelle, New York.
You put up the link on your weather page or on your regular page?
My very first weathercast that I did was at WVOX.
Right, no.
I can't hear you.
You put the you can't hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay. No, what I said was, did you put the link up on your weather page or on your regular page?
On both of my
Are they
Facebook
on
pages.
both? Okay, because I can put the link up in the chat.
Okay.
So I'm going to looking for it now. So give me a second here. So while I'm looking for this link,
Joe, I told you yesterday, and I told you on Monday, it's too early to put up a snow map, but you went ahead and did it, and now
what?
it's looking more and more like the snow chance on Saturday is a little bit diminished, I would say.
Well,
We're
but I
going
was always playing up for elevated areas way up north.
right,
That,
like Mount Ararat in
yeah,
northeast.
well, exactly, Mount Ararat. Um, hang on, you want this link shared or don't you?
You you could share it to your heart's content.
No, I am going to share it if I can just manage to bring it up. For God's sake, I'm trying to copy
There
it.
I am. I see in the corner of the screen the picture of me with the microphone, so it should be like right above the screen there.
No. I see I got the link. I'm trying to copy it
Oh,
because if you don't copy it the right way, it comes up
things
with
go
all this Facebook gobbledygook that they attach to the link, and I'm trying to get it without it,
okay.
and I did. Okay, good,
You know,
excellent, and
really
it
awesome.
works.
You can go
Uh,
to tinyurl.com.
no, I don't have to. I got the link. I got it right now.
Right.
So for those of you who are on chat tonight, I'm going to put the link up here so that you can tune in tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time to listen to Mr. Rayo. Now, before we even get to that map that you just mentioned, I wanted there's a couple of things I do want to show you. First off, please, I set it up. Hopefully, um, it did not erase on me. That's not it. Where is it? I just had it. What did I do with it? Tell me I did. I accidentally erased it.
Technology, Joe.
What's that?
Technology.
Well, I was. Oh, here it is. I got it. So this morning, woke up to notice what was going on in Florida, and there were a couple of things. So I'm just going to bring this up. I managed to save this before they do the reset on this website, usually around 7 o'clock. But the lows this morning, I don't know, they're probably a little bit tough to see on this map. But down in Miami, it was, Virginia Key, which is not too far from there, right now is 60, so they bottomed out at 42. Surfside near Miami, 41, and Miami International Airport bottoming out at 39. There were a lot of spots in South Florida that dropped down into the low 30s. And in fact, oh, good, I did catch it on the reset because now that I moved the map, it disappeared. But in fact, I saved the map from 7 a.m. this morning because I wanted to show everybody this. And let's see, where is it? All right, there it goes. So now hang on. I will bring it up for all to see. So I pulled up this map with the 7 a.m. temperatures this morning. And here's something that you don't see too often. And Cranky Weather Guy pointed it out on a tweet this morning, which gave me the heads up. But looking at these echoes out here in the ocean, and Joe, remember back, was it about 2 weeks ago, there was that one run of the GFS that had a wrapped up low east of the Florida coast, and it had accumulating snow down to Daytona Beach with like a
Right.
546 or 540-ish thickness. Well, I'm thinking it was probably around the same time frame. It's like one of those broken clocks right twice a day scenarios. I can't go back and match it up if it was this run, what run it was, but it was definitely, over 10 or 12 days ago. But there was actually some frozen precip aloft that you could pick up. That's how cold the air was, especially upstairs, even over the warmer ocean where the buoy temperatures were in the 50s. The upper levels, not that far up, were very cold. So, dang, if it can't snow here, it snows aloft off the Florida coast. There is an injustice there somewhere.
It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. 1977, I think it was January 26th. That's the date that kind of rolls around in my head. 1977 was the first and only time that Miami ever saw snowflakes in the air. But that 77 winter, 76, 77 winter was very cold all across the eastern seaboard. I don't think it was an above normal year snow wise
No,
for
that
that.
January was bitter.
It
January
was
77, I think, was the second coldest January on record.
right.
And no, snow wise, I think it turned out to be maybe a little bit, just either normal or a little bit below normal. But you had, as I remember that winter, that cold stretch lasted from mid-December into the first, I don't know, week to 10 days of February, and then the rest of the winter was just a big, you know, bleh. Not really very much happened after that.
But it was cold. That was the winter. I would call that the winter of the Alberta Clippers. We had a lot of Clippers that particular winter, and of course that was also the winter where they had the great blizzard in Buffalo, where they had like what 50 or 60 inches in one heap.
That was the they had 200 inches for the whole year. That was the big lake effect month there.
Right.
Weather-wise around the country tonight, it's actually a bit on the quiet side. We've got, excuse me, winter weather advisories in the middle and upper Mississippi Valley with the system that's coming out. We don't have any winter storm warnings up anywhere. There's some, I think these are winter weather advisories that are up. Let me just, the color's a little off. Either
That
that or is that
that's
purple? Is that winter? Yeah, those are winter weather advisories too. Okay, so this is for the Cascade snowfalls of 100 inches. So they put up a winter weather advisory up for the mountains, and flood watches up for the coastal areas in northwestern Washington, and that's really it. It's pretty quiet otherwise. And this system that's coming out, Joe, is really, it's kind of underwhelming me. It doesn't really look like it's going to be that that huge a deal. Want to be a little careful for some elevated areas upstate New York and into New England because they may still find a way. But I'm not. I was never really overly bullish for talking about snow amounts of over a foot or anything like that. I just
it,
thought that there might be a general area 4 slushy inches in some of the higher ups from the Catskills on northward.
I'm just pulling your leg, so to
No, I
speak.
understand. I understand.
But
I get it.
one thing about ABC, the ABC Evening News, every night it seems they in the headlines they always have to say basically the same thing. A new storm is coming on shore. It's heading eastward. Will hit the northeast later this week.
Oh,
I mean,
that's their
same
big
thing.
thing. That's a big thing with them. It's overkill. You know, a,
Um,
60 million people being impacted by snow flurries or whatever it is.
right.
No, they've really gotten onto the idea that weather is a big seller. So I went right to the GFS. Again, when kind of underwhelming here with this, at least from what it's showing. There's a cold high that's up. We've been talking about this earlier in the week, Joe. This cold high winds up in New Brunswick and kind of pushes down a little Friday night and Saturday. Maybe there's a little snow at the start in some places along the coast for 5 minutes. And maybe there's a little bit more in upstate New York and northern Pennsylvania, but it really just looks like the low goes. You got a Great Lakes, a low going to the lower lakes that's going to fill and redevelop to the east. It's basically right along the coast. It's just an arm of rain that comes up here on Saturday, and it looks like it's done by Saturday evening at New York City. Moves out of Philadelphia probably about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 1 a.m., it's done in Boston. I mean, I don't know how much you're going to be able to squeeze out of this. And again, how cold is it going to be in those those higher elevations in upstate New York and through when you're at the end of January, almost the end of January, and you've got rain in Vermont and New Hampshire, you can't keep it all snow in the lower elevations in southern Vermont and southern New Hampshire. You know that there's a problem with the overall pattern.
Yes, absolutely. This is not a well. We, as I said yesterday, we're halfway through meteorological winter. On the 4th of February, we will be halfway through astronomical winter. And from all the signs right now, all the signals, at least up until early February, there doesn't look to be any kind of significant or major changes that we would be able to say points toward, a flip to a stormier, colder weather pattern. It will be colder, I'm sure, as we move through into February. But I mean, if you want a classic scenario of, let's say, the two jet streams, the northern stream and the southern stream, occasionally teleconnecting to cause some kind of a major uh,
Oh, do you
outbreak.
mean do you mean like this? Do you mean like this on
I,
the new 240 hour
oh yeah,
with
yeah.
the 984 low in the box and the dark blue snows all over the place?
Oh dear me.
You know, it's so hilarious how model runs. There's such desperation in the land of snow weenies right now that model runs. Whenever they kick something out like this, all of a sudden you see a flurry of posts and people congratulating each other because of for something that's on a model in make believe land 10 days out and has. Doesn't have a high probability of happening. I mean, it's just hilarious what a snow lover will go through to get some snow. So you know what, Joe? I'm going to give them some snow. I'm going to put up the Weather Service's snow forecast map, which actually goes out now to Saturday evening.
By the way, that 240-hour system that you just put up or
Mm,
mentioned
right.
on I mean on the European, this looks more like a rainmaker than a
Oh, it's
snowmaker.
got a low up. The Europeans got it up across the lakes as a cold front coming through. Yeah, no, I get it. All right, so here got the. This goes to Saturday evening at 7 o'clock. So there's probably still some more to go. You can see what the Weather Service offices are generating for snow amounts and I'm telling you, this is all higher elevations that you see running up through Southwest PA, between Harrisburg and Pittsburgh, heading up from Johnstown to Altoona, and then points north up in north central PA around Williamsport. Those areas, they're putting what looks like a 2 to 4, 2 to 5 inch band, and then basically 1 to 4 inches across upstate New York. And it's just getting underway in Vermont and New Hampshire. So they'll have another period to play catch up. And even uh, with regards to how this is playing in the Midwest, with the winter weather advisories that they have up. Looks like generally a 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inch snowfall from Missouri on up into Wisconsin. St. Louis forecasting 3, Chicago 5, Milwaukee 5, Green Bay 4. So you get the idea here. That's where that's the system. That's the lead system coming up. And then out in the west, we've got a little bit of snow up north and west of Denver, 1 to 4 inches there, and then your standard 100+ inches up in the Cascades. One of these has got to be Mount Rainier. I'm not sure which one it is, but we've got a 58 and 110. So you take your choice. Which one do you want?
One of them could be Mount Hood, and the other Mount Rainier. But
Okay, so whichever it is, you know what? Neither of us are going to be there to see any of this, so not gonna worry too much about it. Just want to look at the upper air tonight, going forward, Mr. Rayo, and one of the things I noticed today, which I thought was really remarkable because it doesn't happen too often, but the GFS 500 at which would be the old 230, which would be the new 234 hour. It's actually gone different. Let me go back to the 12Z because the 12Z was one where it just struck me as odd the way it looked. I hope I was looking at the right maps. So here's the 240. Something tells me I'm not, but hang on a second. Here's the old 240 on the GFS. I'll switch to the Canadian. And then I'm going to switch to the European. And they actually all look remarkably similar.
now this is the 8.
No, this was the 12s. And even
Okay.
the 18, it's kind of similar in terms of the upper air, in terms of the broad look to it, and especially in Canada, where you've got these wrapped up vortexes up or vortices up in Alaska, Siberia, and over Greenland. The one thing that I would just point out that the earlier runs of the runs of the GFS have been doing the last several days. I noticed it yesterday and overnight that there's an attempt to break down to an extent the vortices up to the north. But whether that's real or not remains to be seen. We keep seeing the model. Now it looks like we're up to about day 11 or 12. So it's about after day 11, which brings us to about February 2nd or 3rd, that it looks like there's a little bit of a change in the overall scheme of things. It's by the time we get to the 4th or the 5th, the GFS keeps wanting to go to a sharply colder look. I just don't know whether it ever, do we ever really get there? I mean, or is this just nonsense? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I know.
I'm kind of looking. See, I'm what I'm doing is, since I'm a minute behind you on what you're showing to everybody, I've called up Tropical Tidbits myself and are looking at the same maps that you are. This way, I'm looking at it more or
Oh,
less at the
good,
same
good.
time. So
Well, you see how you saw at 240 they all look remarkably similar. The GFS was the only one that we could take out to 360, and we keep going to where the model just keeps wanting to make some sort of adjustment in the pattern. And by the way, it's really incorrect. Now, I'm not addressing it you, Joe, but some people. It's incorrect to say that the pattern didn't change. The pattern actually did change. The only problem is that we went for snow lovers, you went from something that was terrible for snow to something that is also terrible for snow. The bottom line is that all the cold air remains locked up with the polar vortex or vortices, or because there's two of them here. They're all locked up in Canada and they're staying up here. Okay. Now, on this particular view, if this were to verify, at least you do have some cross-polar flow that comes down. So this would at least send some cold air southward. You've got this really long, deep trough that runs from northern Canada down into the eastern Gulf states. So clearly, I just realized that it looks like two eyes. Hold on, let me redraw this. So here you go. Eye, mouth. You'll see it. I put a
I'm seeing
smile. The upper air is a smiley face.
it.
Okay. So I guess you snow lovers at home that are looking at this, If this look comes out in the long range, you'll be smiling at it. But I'm not overly hopeful until we see this. When we get to day 7, if it's in there on day 7, then come talk to me. But until it gets there, I'm not overly enthused.
Well, that's the way it goes. I'm just
Yeah.
looking also at the. I'm looking here at the. What am I looking at? I'm bringing up so many. My screen. I'm looking. I'm bringing up so many different things. I think I'm confusing myself here.
All right. Well, I just brought up the radar tonight, so there's a lot of there's weather back in basically if you right across the midsection from
All right. Just.
from Minnesota down to Louisiana, you got all sorts of precip going on there.
I just wanted to say that once again tonight on the both the 6 to 10 and the 8 to 14 day probability maps from Climate Prediction Center, they have above normal temperatures. In fact, all the way across. The only place that's below normal on the 6 to 10 day is somewhere near the Arizona New Mexico border.
Oh,
Everywhere,
golly.
everywhere else, it's above normal. And by 8 to 14 days, the entire country is under above normal. In fact, they have for January 30th to February 5th, 60% probability of above normal here in the Northeast, going back into the Great Lakes. So there you go.
Well,
It,
they had to throw in the towel because they did a bit of a switch in early January, talking about colder than normal temperatures in their longer range outlooks,
oh yeah,
and then they had to flip back the other way.
right. Well, if you remember on the experimental 3 to 4 week probability map they had for the 1st through the 14th of February, they had very cold weather across the eastern United States. And here I'm looking at now their 8 to 14 day prog. The whole country is underneath above normal temperatures. The only
Yeah.
place on this map in North America, well, not in North America, but in the United States, that is below normal is Alaska. Alaska is the place where you want to go if you want colder than normal temperatures as we move into the month of February.
Yeah, I already pulled the map off, but I was looking at the anomalies earlier today on the hemispheric. There's this blob of below normal temperatures over Alaska and that whole region. It for 16 days it doesn't move.
Yeah,
It's in that salmon color, or as I was told, it was actually periwinkle pink. But it's in that periwinkle pink color, which is like 15, 20, 25 degrees below average or whatever it is. And it just sits there. And that is what you're seeing is that the polar vortex pulled so far north. And by the way, I also was looking across Europe and Asia. There's just like this giant low in northern Siberia. Usually is some big high up there with cold air. There's this giant low with westerly winds practically all across Europe and Asia. It's just this it's their version, I guess, of the fire hose. And when you look, when I was looking at some of the surface maps and the weather that's been going on, it's been there's a big ridge there. It's been very dry. Temperatures have been very warm over much of Western Europe. It just has been a non-event winter there for the most part.
I see that Daniel Fitzsimmons and Izzy D are having a bit of a fit right now. Daniel
Over.
Fitzsimmons saying, "Boo, I really want snow. It's so frustrating, especially after those 4 nor'easters in March of 2018." And Izzy D says, "I've pretty much thrown in the towel based on the way I make my forecast. Maybe something comes in late February, but that's the only hope for my area to get maybe get it above last year's hole."
Yeah, everybody's been throwing in the towel. As I said yesterday, as a contrarian and a cynic, you should be thrilled that some of the biggest snow bulls that are out there have thrown in the towel. That's probably a very good sign that something's going to change real soon.
Yeah,
Um,
you remember that was it last year or the year before? Everybody had the towel thrown in, but we were seeing uh, the splitting of the vortex and things we said were going to change toward the end of February or the beginning of March, and lo and behold, that
Yeah,
was
well,
that was
because
the
you know
end of
what,
the
there's
season.
yeah, and it worked then, but last year we saw the vortex split in late January, in mid January. Everybody was anticipating, a big pattern change and a bullish second half, and nothing happened because there were, you know what it is, Joe. There's so many pieces to this puzzle, and I've been reading how a number of people are actually not understanding why the upper air is setting up the way it's set up. Because when you look at certain things that are going on in terms of water temperature profiles and other indices going into the winter and the cold November into December that we had, um, the La Nina or lack of a La Nina, the El Nino or the lack of an El Nino, uh, you you had a lot of people that were being very bullish, and they're kind of perplexed as to why the pattern is the way it is. And I just don't know. I don't know that there's one single answer. I mean, this time around, you could say that the polar vortex in the stratosphere is being wrapped up so tight up near the pole and migrating towards Siberia seems to be dominating everything else. But I don't know. It just is what it is.
And we did cross a little bit of a milestone today, at least at Central Park. The sun set tonight at 5:01. It is the first time since we went off of daylight saving time in early November that the sun is now setting after the 5 o'clock hour. And in 46 days, we will be setting our clocks ahead once again, 1 hour ahead, and pushing the time of sunset beyond 7 o'clock. So slowly but surely, inexorably, the days are getting longer, the afternoons are getting brighter, and the average temperatures, I believe, at most locations here in the northern United States, the average daily temperatures are going to start to climb. They've
Yes.
flattened out now. This is the coldest time of the year, but I think next week, toward the end of next
I
week,
think
we're
they
going
start
to
around February 4th or 5th or 6th, if I remember correctly.
right.
You start to see the numbers edge up, yeah. And then by the time we get New York City, I think by the time starts the month, right around or just under 40 for a normal high, and by the time it gets to the end of February, it's at 44 or 5, and by the time we get to the end of the March, it's something at like 55, 56.
Right.
March is the first month where everything starts to the warm up starts to accelerate.
Oh yeah, you start to really notice, especially within a couple of weeks of the equinox, that the days, the lightening of the skies, the length of the daylight hours really are accelerating quite rapidly, and so also the temperatures, the average temperatures on a day by day basis. So yeah, I've always said, I don't know about you, Joe, but I've always said to myself, St. Patrick's Day, that's the day, at least in my mind, where the last day where we have a shot at some really significant or very heavy duty snow. After St. Patrick's Day, any snows that we get usually are just kind of like a drop in the bucket.
Right. Well, the
That doesn't always
last.
happen, but in most years that's usually
Well,
the
yeah. The exception to that, I believe, the fourth nor'easter back in 18 was on. I think was it that on St. Joseph's Day, March 19th, or was it that I got 19 inches on that day? I
I
got
don't
19 inches on that. Um, but
it
it was
seems
it was after St. Patrick's Day, I believe, that
yeah,
fourth nor'easter. And now I
yeah.
want to say March 21st, 22nd.
Well, I can't, there were so many, there were four of them, and I think for every single one of those nor'easters, I lost power here.
That's
And in
right.
fact,
So
and in fact,
you
I was
forgot what day it was. It was all one long day.
it was one long day for
Right.
me.
Waiting for NYSEG to put your power back on.
And the interesting thing is, I think on three of those four storms, uh, FiOS one put us up in hotels, and at the hotel, on all three times going into the hotel, I had trouble finding a parking space. Why? Because there were electric companies, not just NYSEG, but from all over the Northeast, even
Right.
from Canada.
Yeah.
They had the parking lots filled. That's where they were all staying to get some rest at night before they headed out the next day to fix all the wires that came crashing on down. Here, where I live in Putnam Valley in Putnam County, I remember driving down the road and there was a crew from Prince Edward Island that was
Nice.
repairing the lines. And I rolled the window down. I said, so how does it look? You think we'll have power tonight? Well,
Yeah,
it's bad.
you mind, Rabbit. You
You
mind.
might, you
You
might.
mind. All I know is I was absolutely livid on the last one, if only because of the fact that I'm seeing messages coming up on Facebook starting at 10 o'clock that night. And of course, we were in southern Westchester where there was about 3 or 4 inches on the ground. It really didn't snow very much there. And I'm seeing all these messages from people on Long Island saying it's puking snow.
Oh,
It's, the way they're using the word puke. And indeed, when you're talking 4 or 5 inches an hour, I'm looking at some videos people are posting of the snow globe that was out here. And it was another 19, 20-inch snowfall. When I got home after the snow ended, I left early the next morning. So I got home right before, just shortly before the sun would have gone to work on it and melted down to a large extent. It was every bit of 18 or 19 inches when I got to my house. And I thought to myself, oh, just great, another snow globe snowstorm, and I missed it. But it's 7:31. Last night we went an hour and a half, so tonight we're cutting it short because there's really not a whole lot to focus our attention on at the moment. But we have to end the night, of course, with Briller Jeopardy. Are you ready, Mr. Rayo?
yes.
Okay, from the 1970s to the 20 teens, okay, the decade in Central Park that had the least number of 6-inch snowstorms. Good luck. Do
Okay.
do 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 dum 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 do 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 dum dum.
Time is up. The pens are
All
down.
right. So the Jeopardy answer was what it was the ninth. Well, it was from the 1870s to the 20 teens, the decade in Central Park that had the least 6-inch number of 6-inch snowstorms. The 1970s had 6. However, the 1980s had just 5.
Ah,
Well, you knew it was either going to be the 70s and 80s. And by the way,
and
Mr.
here's how much I. This is what I lost.
Oh, you bet 1,500. Well, Mr. Scott points out that um, on the other side of that equation, in 2014, I think, where did he leave me that message? Here it is. In 2014, there were 4 6-inch snowstorms in that one year. Just in that one year, there were 4.
See,
So there were
what
almost
we
as many in 2014 than there were for all of the 70s or all of the 80s.
see all of you people who are watching, who don't remember back that far, back in the '80s and the '70s. We, we were big time snow lovers back then. We would rejoice if we broke 6 inches, which was such a rarity back
Oh
in the
God, yeah.
days. So
And
that's
there was a long. Well, I can tell you, I can remember this clearly because I remember reading this in a statement. From 1970 to 1975, there had been no single snowfall in New York City greater than 4 inches. So
that's
five
incredible.
5 years, and then it was broken in February of '75 when we got like an 8-inch snowfall in the middle of the month.
I
Okay,
remember.
there was
I
also
remember that.
there was also a stretch. Now I'm not sure what the years the time frame was, but there was also a stretch where in the '70s where temperatures at low temperatures hadn't gotten into the teens in New York City for I don't know how many, maybe it was for 3 years in a row or 4 years in a row, something like that. I forgot what the year combination was. Maybe it was just from late '69 to early '73, or something like that, somewhere in there. But there was a long stretch where the low hadn't gone under 20. So I had this what I would call an ADM. A is in apple, D is in dog, M is in Mary. An ADM posted a chart on my Facebook page the other day saying that uh, based on the rise in global temperatures in the last number of years, that we're never going to see big snow. Now, again, because the center of the universe is New York. And by the way, ADM stands for Agenda Driven Moron. Okay. So his claim is that, hey, look at this graph of temperatures. Okay. And he shows this graph showing the cold period going into from 1880s into the early 1940s, and then this spike up in temperatures. And from this, this brain deficient person came to the conclusion that we will never see ever again any snowstorms during the actual winter months of December, January, and February. That the only time you'll ever get big storms, or March, the only time you would ever get big storms would be in either November or April. I mean, it was mind-boggling to me when I was looking at it and reading it, and I left it up because it was just so utterly ridiculous and told them so. For one thing, how would you explain the fact that the fact that the longest snowless streak in Central Park, I mean, depending on when you want to look at statistics, the longest, you're talking about big snows, the longest streak of the lack of a 1 foot plus snowstorm went from 1899 to 1914. Okay, that's 15 years.
Well, that's
Okay, and that was in the
supposedly
cold
back in the
period.
days. That was supposedly back in the day when we didn't have steam engines and whatever, and
That was
no
in the right. That was in the cold period. So
exactly.
so how do you explain that? And how do you explain that in this warmer period, of course, from 2000 to 2020, we've had more 1 foot 10 inch or more, or 12 inches or more in that time frame than we had in the prior 70 or 80 years. Explain that to me. But no, it's never going to ever snow again of size in December, January, or February. What a maroon.
the
What a
February
nincompoop.
the February 1975 storm was February 12th, and I remember that well. And in fact, if any of you would like to relive that day, go to WCBS News Radio 880, and they have what they call their appreciation site, which was put together by one of their reporters, Don Swaim, who put together a bunch of air checks. And one of those air checks was that day, February 12th, 1975. Your meteorologist on duty back then, Gordon Barnes. They had the entire day. You want a Barnes-orama. This was it. Starting with the first flakes in the morning, and that was also, as I actually made a comment on that site, Joe. February 12th, 1975 was still Lincoln's
Lincoln's
birthday.
birthday.
It was a
Yes.
holiday that day.
Right.
No school that day.
Right.
And everybody was making the comment like, well, thank goodness it's a holiday. There aren't as many people out on the roadways or whatever. And we picked up, I think, something like 6 or 8 inches, quick inches. The funny part about it is that Gordon Barnes was literally revising his forecast on the fly. I think he was telling Harvey Hoffman. He said, now I originally said 3 to 6 inches, and Harvey says, yes. He says, all right, I want you to take a pen, scratch that out, and I'm raising it now to 4 to 8 and possibly 10 in some of the northern and western. I said, this is the way you do a forecast back then.
Yeah.
You don't type it out. You don't go through all the math. You just tell the guy, look, this is what I'm saying now.
Right.
But
Exactly.
if you go to CBS, if you go to the CBS 880 website, look for the appreciation site, and they have all slew of different air checks. They had the CBS radio bloopers. That in itself is worth going to hear some of the stuff, the stuff that went out over the air. One guy, I forget who it was, as they're leading up to the top of the hour news, he said, WCBS serving New York, Connecticut, and Kentucky.
Set your time to WCBS. Four tones will follow. The fourth and loudest one marks the exact time.
Great site.
Yeah,
Great site.
it is. I think somebody hit Super Chat. It was Brandon Doherty hitting Super Chat for $2 a month. I'm sorry.
$2.
For $2. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Very much. No, what I meant to say was, Brandon, Brandon, you put up a weather video on your YouTube channel yesterday, did you not? See if you can respond on the chat. I know it's a little bit behind, but if you did, everybody should go take a look at his YouTube channel. If you want to put it up on the chat and put the name of it on there, you certainly are welcome to do that. All right. So look, I'm tired. I don't know about you.
I'm trying to, and I don't know, Keith James, what happened to Ira Joe Fisher. Uh,
Yeah, listen.
I think he was doing car commercials on some of the local Hudson Valley stations
Oh,
up
good.
here.
Then he's making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm sure he is.
Look, honestly, folks, because people ask me all the time about this person, that person, or the other person, and for the most part, especially from my end, unless I worked with them directly, I really don't. I really don't know, nor do I network. You know, TV people, it don't make the assumption that people that have worked in television, all they do is network with people that work in television, because I certainly don't. Maybe if I had, I would have had a better career. But no matter. Well, and there's a lot of reasons for it. I mean, we all live different places.
I
Living.
want you to get started again now,
No, no,
okay?
no, 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 no. I'll keep it tame. I mean,
What time?
living as far out as I do, I never really wanted to go into the city when I didn't have to.
Yeah.
So, and then you're raising your family and everything else, and you just I just didn't really spend that much. There were that much time with the folks from other stations. So just so you know, I've never met Ira Joe Fisher, so I don't know him. I don't know him. I've met a few people along the way, but most of the people that are on there right now, I don't know. And that's
Yesterday,
it.
yesterday in 1985, according to our friend Scott Briller, last time, yesterday in 1985, that New York City had a high temperature less than 10. The high yesterday in 1985, January, what is it, 21st? 22nd.
Second
22nd,
was
1985,
what,
the high,
9?
the high in New York City was 9 degrees.
Right. And
Last
probably 3 days
was a
later it
single
was,
digit.
and probably 3 days later it was in the 50s.
Right.
Those are, I think one of the most depressing things is when you get all this cold, when you do get the Arctic air, and you have all this Arctic air and it's cold for 10 days or 2 weeks, and then you don't see a flake or an ice pellet in that whole stretch while you have all this cold air, and then the Arctic air pulls out and it warms up and rains, and you never see a flake or an ice pellet. That's the one scenario when it happens that tends to drive me a bit crazy. If you're going to be all that cold, you might as well have a little bit of snow out of it, even if it's just a coating to a couple of inches. But to go through a long stretch of cold weather and then to have it pull out and you wind up with just and your next precip event and it's all rain, that's just so unfair.
Joe, you said you wanted to cut this at
Yes, let's
7:30.
cut it short. Say good night.
So I'm gonna say goodnight. Good night.
Good night. So he said good night. Now I'm going to say good night. Everybody have a good one. And thanks for everybody's support, by the way, as always, very much appreciated. And we'll see you tomorrow.